Hi guys, Bryonna Noble's The Witch Next Door here, and we're going to be talking about my top 5 favorite books to reread. So I'm house sitting again, so you get a new background. Ooh, it's a very lovely house. But anyway, what I want to talk to you guys about today are my 5 favorite books to reread. I very rarely will reread a book. Once I read it, it's done and I go on to the next one in the series. Doesn't mean I don't love it. I just don't typically want to go back and relive it. Does that make sense? It has to be something very special about the book to get me to open it again. I don't know if you're the same way, but I decided I was going to share with you my top 5 favorite books to do this with. So, number 5 on the list, we're going to count backwards here, is Night Play by Sherrilyn Kenyon. This is actually book 6 in her Dark Hunter series, and it is her very first Werehunter book, I believe. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. But it follows Vane Catalakis. I think I'm saying that right. It's Greek. I'll put the spelling there. But it follows him. He is a warrior who can shift into a werewolf, and he falls in love with Bride McTierney. Now, I've also been told that her name might actually be pronounced like Brady. It's spelled Bride, though, so I've just always called her Bride. But either way, this is a great book. She is plus size and going through a very bad breakup when this uber hot werewolf comes and kind of sweeps her off her feet. And just some of the things that Vane does in the book, I just absolutely love it. I love watching the characters develop. I am introduced to some of my favorite characters later on in the series, and it's just a book I find that I really love to go back and reread, mainly because we've all had those absolutely horrible breakups where we kind of wish we could have gotten a little bit of revenge against the guy who did it to us, or girl in some of y'all's cases. I don't know. But you know, Vane kind of gives Bride that way of getting her revenge without it being petty. Like, it's just absolutely glorious, some of the things he pulls off. I don't want to tell you what they are because I'd love for you to go and read the book yourself. But yes, that is that is number 5 on my list of top 5s, Night Play. Number 4 on the list actually has the number in the title, which I did not plan, and it is the Four Gallant Sisters. Now, this is a little bit odd. It is by a man named Kimmel. I think I'm pronouncing that right. It's actually a children's book with absolutely beautiful artwork in it, so I highly suggest you check it out. It is out of print, but I know you can buy it secondhand, and most libraries do have it. But he pretty much took some of his favorite Brothers Grimm stories and just fairy tales and put them together to create this absolutely beautiful world about 4 sisters whose mother dies in the very beginning of the book. That's not a spoiler. Their mother dies. They're 4 girls, and they're in a world where, you know, you have to be a man to make a living. So they each decide they're going to disguise themselves as men, go out into the world, and, you know, learn a trade so that they can meet back together. I think it's 5 or 10 years later, they're going to meet back together and be a family again with these new trades. And so each sister goes off. They each get a whole page of what's going on with them, followed by a page of beautiful artwork. The oldest one that I kind of relate to the most, probably because I am the oldest, she becomes a tailor. The second one becomes a hunter. The third one becomes a finger artist, which is pretty much like a pickpocket / magician. But she's only supposed to do it to kind of entertain people. Hers is definitely the weirdest of all of the trades they go and learn. And then the youngest one is a stargazer, and they all meet back up together and decide they're going to go and join the new king's court and just kind of have adventures that way. It's a really great story because the king's mother is convinced that these are women and the king does not believe her. So they keep trying to like stereotype them and be like, well, we're going to do this because men are going to react this way and women are going to react this way, and this is how we're going to catch them. And the sisters are just kind of always thwarting the plan and showing you that, you know, just because you think this is how one gender acts or another, that's not how it's necessarily going to be. And it has a fabulous ending, and I just really enjoyed that one. I really enjoy this book. I actually went out and bought it where I could read it to my nieces and nephews and maybe one day my future kids. So I do recommend checking that one out if you haven't read it yet. Number 3 on my list is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. So you probably heard about the anime movie that came out that's actually based on this book, which is an absolutely beautiful movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. But the book is even better. It's just kind of, she builds this absolutely amazing world that I just love to visit again and again. Because in this world, all these fairy tales are real. You all kind of go by these rules that fairy tales have laid out for you. Your main character is Sophie, who is the oldest daughter of 3, which means she's already cursed because, you know, the youngest daughter is the only one who's going to have good fortune. Because in every fairy tale, the oldest one and the second oldest one usually have pretty bad lives, so they end up being the villains or something. So she has like resided herself that she's going to have this absolutely boring life until she is cursed by a witch to become an old woman, and she ends up working for Howl. And sorry, editing the video, I realized I did not go into Howl at all. He is actually rumored to be an evil wizard who eats the hearts of young and beautiful girls. He actually is a much more complex character and has a lot of different identities in the story. He's also accompanied by one of my favorite characters, Calcifer, a fire demon. In the movie, he is voiced by Billy Crystal, and he is just as awesome as Billy Crystal in the books as well. So yeah, one of my favorite characters, and I cannot believe I forgot to go into them. All right, back to the video. Actually, all of Hal's backstory in the book is different from the movie. I do enjoy the movie, but the book is just absolutely amazing. I love visiting the world Diana builds over and over again. She actually created this book because when she was at a book signing at an elementary school, a little boy asked her, "Have you ever thought about writing a book about a moving castle?" And she's like, "Well, I will now." And she wrote it, and she actually did dedicate it to him. In the first run of the series, like in the first run of the books, it actually just tells you the story and that she can't remember what the little boy's name was. She wrote it down on a piece of paper and lost it. But apparently she finds it later because in later editions of the book, it has his name. This is actually one of 3 books. I've read the second book, which is Castle in the Sky or Castle in the Air. There actually what's funny is Howl's Moving Castle, the director who directed that movie also directed another one by the same name of Castle in the Air, which is not based on her book. But Castle in the Air, I did not enjoy quite as much because, well, it's a continuation of Howl's story, sort of. It's also a standalone, and they don't really show you who Howl is right away. And I kept looking for him, so I found I didn't enjoy it quite as much. But there is a third one. I think it's like the Hallway of Many Doors or something like that. And I do plan on checking that one out. I have not read it yet. I did not even know it existed until I did some research for this series. Some other differences is Sophie's sisters. Like, you meet one of Sophie's sisters in the movie. She has 2, and they have an actual very complicated plot line as well. So just check out the book. If you like the movie, seriously check out the book. It's really, really great. Actually, one of my favorite things about the book is the town Sophie comes from is called Market Chipping. And for whatever reason, I just think that's adorable. And I love the titles that the author gives to all of her towns. It's just a rich, beautiful world that she builds, and I find that drags me back again and again. I constantly love rereading this book. Book 2 on my top 5 to be reread list is Memoirs of a Geisha. You've probably heard of the movie, and what's funny is all these books I've said, you know, there are movies about them. I've actually read the books before the movies were even conceived, so that's kind of funny. I actually thought they did a really good job on the movie, if you've seen it. There were some differences, but as far as sticking to the main points of the story, they did an absolute beautiful job in building this world. Now, Memoirs of a Geisha. If you love anything about Japan or geisha or whatever, this is an absolute must read for you. Author Golden, who is the author, anyway, he did such a good job writing it. I read it for the first time when I was 17 in high school, and he did such a great job writing it that I thought it was a true story. I legitimately thought he was telling us this and passing it off as fiction so she doesn't get in trouble, which she mentions in the book. He just does a great job building this story for you. And I have reread this book countless times. I've had to buy new copies. I've reread it so many times. There are parts in it that I wish, you know, there's just some decisions I wish Sayuri had made differently. That is our heroine. But you're pretty much taken from beginning to end. This girl, Chio, is born in a poor fishing town in Japan. And her mother is dying, her father's very old, so he ends up selling them to become geisha, them being her and her sister. Her sister does not make the cut to become a geisha, she wasn't pretty enough, but Chio is taken into this house, and it's about her journey from becoming this fishmonger's daughter to trying to find her sister, to trying to find her place in the world, to trying to become a geisha. I mean, it just builds on and on and on. And we go from when she's like 8 or so to, you know, when she's an old lady living. I won't go into where she's living as an old lady, but you know, you just expand this whole lifetime. It takes place just before World War II starts. And then you actually get to experience World War II through these Kyoto geishas' eyes and their world. Then you get to see the aftermath of what Kyoto is like after World War II. And it's just this amazing experience, both historically and just watching Chio develop into her geisha, into the geisha Sayuri, which is her geisha name. They always change their names. And you just kind of get to find out so much rich information about the Japanese culture. So I highly recommend that book. It is always a pleasure to read it, even if she does not go with the man I kind of want her to go with. And finally, the #1 to be reread list actually consists of 7 books because I could not narrow it down. This list would have been all of these books plus the ones I told you before, and that is the Harry Potter series. Oh yes, I am a huge Harry Potter fan. In fact, I am knitting myself a Ravenclaw blanket. I'm not even kidding. I am Ravenclaw all the way. Every test I've ever taken, Ravenclaw, including on Pottermore. But no, these books are just so well written. It's such a rich world building experience, and I love going back and rereading them. I actually have them all on audiobook, both the American version and the British version audiobook. I have them. I don't have them on my Kindle yet. I want to get them on my Kindle, which apparently they are on sale at Pottermore if you go and check that out. At least they were on sale when I filmed this. I used to have them all in hardback. They're packed away right now, but I love revisiting that world. J.K. Rowling does such an amazing job in world building that you just want to go back again and again and again. There's a reason that these books are so popular. She introduces you to characters that you love, characters that you hate, but a world you inevitably wish you kind of lived in. At least I do. I think out of the 7 Harry Potter books, which I'm not going to go through the whole plot line because I feel, unless you've been living under a rock, you know what the Harry Potter plot line is. But I think the ones I reread the most out of the series are probably book 1, because it's the introductory book. Like, I read it and I still get that sense of amazement every time when he's going to like Diagon Alley for the first time, and all the rich descriptions, the descriptions of Hogwarts and just how everything's introduced. I love reading that book. It's by far the easiest read of all 7 books, the quickest one you can get through, and it makes me happy, you know? It gives me that sense of awe again and again. The other one I probably reread a lot is book 3, and that is not just because that's when Sirius Black is introduced, or when we truly realize just what a master storyteller J.K. Rowling is, but it's because you get to go to Hogsmeade for the first time. And again, I just get this whole new area that I get to experience again and again. And my favorite shop in Hogsmeade, by far, Honeyduke's. That the colors, the foods, the taste, you can see yourself in it so beautifully, and it's such a satisfying reread. And so I just go through them over and over and over again. I think the hardest book for me to get through the first time was book 5, because Harry was being very angst driven. But by the end of book 5, you find out why. So then when I reread it, I found I enjoyed it a lot more because I had more understanding. But yes, those are my top 5 reread books I will always reread them. I love to recommend them to people. So I hope you will check them out. Or maybe you already have. Have you read any of these books? Do you agree with my list? Let me know in the comments below. So I just became an Amazon affiliate just so I can give you this deal. If I'm going to put a link below. You click on it, you can go to audibles.com and try it free for a month and get 2 free audiobooks instead of 1 for your first month by using that link. And I did that because I love audiobooks. I listen to them while I'm cleaning, driving, crocheting, whatever. And I have most of these books on audiobooks, actually. You can get most of those at audible.com, except for the Harry Potter series. I think you can only buy those on CD. You might can only get them through Pottermore. I love these books. The readers are really good for them, and I hope you will enjoy them. I, signed up to be an Amazon affiliate just where I could give you that offer, because normally you would only get 1 free book. I will also link below some of my list of books if you want to go there and check them out and buy them. Let me know in the comments, what are your favorite books to reread? And if you go back and read these, definitely come back and let me know. I love talking about these books. They're some of my favorites. On the screen, you will have a link to my previous episode. I hope you will go and check it out. Until next time, happy reading.